Congratulations! Your financial miracle has arrived. You are about to receive a great blessing that will completely transform your life. But before moving forward, you need to know something crucial. This is not an ordinary opportunity. It is the answer you have been waiting for. Why? Because what you are about to discover is a secret kept for generations, a truth known by few, but that can change your destiny in an instant. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to free yourself from the financial worries that have weighed you down for so long. It is not just a dream, it is a divine promise that is within your reach. However, there is an important detail. This gift is not available forever. Only those who act now, who take this opportunity with faith and determination, will be able to experience the transformation that God has in store. This is the moment to take a step of faith, to leave behind doubts and fears, and to embrace the abundance that God has planned for you. Don't let this opportunity pass by. What you are about to learn will not only fill your life with blessings, but it will also give you the power to impact others with God's love and provision. Are you ready to discover the answer you've been waiting for? Imagine an invisible, constant force present in every moment, ready to transform your life in ways you never imagined possible. That is divine assurance, the promise that miracles that once seemed impossible will become a reality. No matter how distant the dream may seem or how difficult the situation is, God's power can overcome any obstacle. It is in those moments of despair, when everything seems lost, that divine intervention comes to life, restoring happiness and bringing profound peace to the soul. Money can offer comforts, but the peace that comes from divine assurance is incomparable. God, in His infinite wisdom, knows the deepest desires of your heart. Sometimes, those desires seem as distant as the stars, but with faith, they draw near to you like an unexpected blessing. How many times have you wished for a radical change in your life, only to feel that it would never happen? The truth is that when you least expect it, when you have already let go of the reins, that's when God acts. That unexpected moment, when the impossible becomes possible, is the very essence of divine assurance. It's natural to doubt when circumstances seem impossible, but it is precisely in those moments that faith becomes your strongest anchor. Maintaining that faith, even when everything seems against you, is key to seeing the miracle manifest. Think of those who have weathered storms, who have seen their money vanish, only to discover that unwavering faith is the true wealth. Divine assurance is that pillar, that refuge in the storm that never fails. There is power in believing that what you desire with all your being will come, even when the world tells you otherwise. God not only listens but also responds in ways that exceed our wildest expectations. What seems like a delay or denial is often preparation for something much greater. That's the promise. When you fully trust in His plan, even what seems impossible becomes a tangible reality. True change in life begins when you accept this divine certainty in your heart. It's not enough to simply believe. You must live that belief, walking with the conviction that everything, absolutely everything, is possible with God. This kind of faith opens the doors to miracles, turning barriers into mere tests that ultimately strengthen your spirit. The peace that arises from this certainty is deep and lasting, a constant reminder that you are not alone. As you walk the path of life, there will be challenges that make you question everything. It is in those moments that divine certainty becomes even more crucial. That unshakable trust that God is in control allows you to face any difficulty with inexplicable calm. Though money is important and has its place, nothing compares to the tranquility of knowing that your life is in the hands of someone much greater than you. When you trust in God's promise, your perspective changes. The difficulties that once overwhelmed you become small in the light of His power. You begin to see trials not as obstacles, but as opportunities for God to show His strength in your life. That is true divine assurance, knowing that, no matter what happens, you have a heavenly backing that never fails. Even in the darkest moments, there is a light guiding your way. Throughout history, we have seen how faith in the impossible has transformed lives. From great biblical figures to ordinary people who, with nothing but faith, have achieved the unimaginable. This is proof that divine assurance is not just an abstract concept, but a tangible reality for those who believe. When you hold on to this certainty, you discover that the limits you thought existed begin to crumble, giving way to a new horizon full of possibilities. The peace that comes from divine certainty is not momentary. It is lasting and transformative. It gives you the strength to face each day with renewed confidence, knowing that the best is yet to come. This peace is not the result of circumstances, but of deep trust in God. No matter what you face, there is always a sense of calm that envelopes you, reminding you that you are under His care. Divine assurance is the foundation upon which you can build a full and rich life. It's not just a hope, but a promise that God fulfills over and over again. Every time doubt tries to creep into your mind, remember that the impossible is just a word for those who have not experienced the power of God. Keep moving forward with faith, because your miracle is closer than you think. Have you ever experienced a moment when, just as you were about to give up, when you thought there was no solution, something unexpected happened that changed everything? That is God's hand, working silently behind the scenes. It is in those moments that you realize you were never alone, that there was always a plan in motion, one much bigger and better than you could have imagined. The next time you face a difficult situation, instead of focusing on the problems, remember this divine certainty. Remember that God is in control and that, even if you don't understand the why of what you are going through, everything has a purpose. Even the hardest trials can lead to great blessings if you keep faith and hope. Money can buy many things, but only faith can buy you peace that surpasses all understanding. Each day is an opportunity to trust God more, to see His hand in the smallest details of your life. From sunrise to sunset, His presence is constant, guiding each of your steps. When you find yourself in the midst of a storm, remember that the rainbow always appears after the rain. That is the promise of divine assurance. After every challenge, there is a blessing waiting. Never underestimate the power of prayer. It is through prayer that you can connect directly with God, seek His guidance, and find comfort in the midst of difficulties. When everything seems to be going wrong, kneel down and pray, because it is in those moments that the greatest answers are revealed. It's not about money or earthly achievements, but about a deep connection with the divine. This is just the beginning of a spiritual journey full of discoveries, where each step you take brings you closer to God's promises. Divine assurance is not just a theory, it is a reality that unfolds in the lives of those who trust unreservedly. Get ready, because what is to come will exceed any expectations you have had. From the beginning of time, God has made promises that have guided His people through the ages. These promises are not just words, but eternal commitments that He faithfully fulfills. Imagine walking down a dark path, not knowing where it leads, and suddenly, a light turns on. That light is God's guidance, always present to illuminate your steps. No matter how complicated the situation may be, His promise is clear. He will never leave you alone, and there will always be a direction to follow, especially when money seems scarce and decisions become difficult. Life is full of decisions, and each one can change your destiny. It's easy to feel lost in the midst of so many options, but that's where God's promise comes in. He not only promises to be with you, but also to guide you in every step you take. It's like having a map in the middle of a desert, a map that takes you directly to an oasis where water and rest are guaranteed. In a world where everything seems uncertain, having that divine guidance is a true treasure. At every stage of your life, God has been there, showing you the right path. Sometimes, guidance comes in the form of people, other times through circumstances that push you in the right direction. But it is always there, waiting for you to trust Him and follow His lead. It is no coincidence that you have come this far. It is the result of His constant intervention. When you feel confused or unsure, remember that God has already mapped out the way for you. You just need to trust in His plan and move forward with courage. God's promise is not just that He will guide you, but that He will also protect you along the way. In a world full of uncertainty and dangers, knowing that you have His protection is reassuring. It's like an invisible shield surrounding you, ensuring that nothing and no one can divert you from your destiny. Even if the road is difficult and you face obstacles, His promise to be by your side remains unshakable. The key is not to lose faith, even when things don't go as expected. God's guidance also manifests in the way He speaks to us through His Word. Each verse, each teaching, is a compass that guides us in the midst of confusion. If you've ever felt lost or directionless, open the Bible, and you'll find the direction you need. It is a constant reminder that you are not alone on this journey. Though money and material resources can offer a sense of security, true security comes from following divine guidance. God values faithfulness above all. Being faithful to Him is not just a matter of obedience but of total trust in His plan. That trust is built over time as you see how He fulfills His promises over and over again. When you remain faithful, even in the most difficult trials, you are demonstrating that you trust His guidance above your own desires and needs. That faithfulness is rewarded with inner peace and a certainty that, no matter what happens, you are on the right path. Divine guidance doesn't always manifest in the way we expect. Sometimes, the paths God points us to seem difficult or even impossible to traverse. But it is in those moments that we must remember that His vision is broader than ours. He sees what we cannot see, and His plan always has a greater purpose. Even if you don't understand it at the time, every step you take in faith brings you closer to the destiny He has prepared for you. There's a saying that goes, "Man proposes, but God disposes." This couldn't be truer when it comes to divine guidance. You can make plans and set goals, but at the end of the day, it is God who directs your steps. This is not a limitation, but a blessing. Knowing that there is a higher power guiding every decision gives you the freedom to live without fear. You can move forward with confidence, knowing that each step is aligned with a greater purpose. In a world where everyone seeks security, true peace comes from knowing that you are following God's plan. His guidance is infallible, and even if you don't always understand why He leads you down certain paths, you can be sure that His purpose is always for your good. No matter how difficult the road, as long as you follow His lead, you will reach the right destination. It is that unshakable trust in His guidance that will enable you to overcome any obstacle. The road of life is long and often filled with challenges, but God's promise is that you will never walk alone. His guidance is available to those who seek it, and His promise to be with you is eternal. Even when everything seems lost, when your strength fails and money is scarce, He is there, guiding you to a place of rest and renewal. That is true wealth, knowing that no matter what you face, you are being guided by the Creator of the universe. When you look back on your life, you will likely see moments when God's guidance was clear and evident. Perhaps you didn't notice it at the time, but every step you took was being directed by His hand. This is no coincidence but proof of His faithfulness. He promises to guide you, and that promise remains firm, regardless of the circumstances. God's promise not only covers the present, but also the future. You can move forward with the assurance that He has already prepared the way ahead. This does not mean that you won't face challenges, but it does mean that you will have the strength and wisdom to overcome them. Every step you take, every decision you make, is guided by His hand. It is comforting to know that you do not have to face the future alone, because His guidance is constant, and His promise is eternal. God's guidance also includes provision. He not only shows you the way but also provides you with what you need to travel it. Sometimes, this includes material resources like money, but other times it is something much more valuable: peace, wisdom, strength, and comfort. These are the true riches that God provides to those who trust in His guidance. While the world may offer you many things, nothing compares to the blessings that come from following God. When you trust in God's guidance, you free yourself from the stress and anxiety that often accompany decision-making. You no longer need to worry about every little detail, because you know that He is in control. This does not mean that you should not plan or be diligent, but it does mean that you can rest in the assurance that, at the end of the day, His will shall be done. That is a peace that money cannot buy, a tranquility that only comes from knowing that you are being guided by the Creator. In conclusion, God's promise of guidance is one of the greatest blessings we can receive. It gives us direction in the midst of confusion, peace in the midst of chaos, and security in the midst of uncertainty. As long as you continue to trust in Him, His promise will be fulfilled in your life in ways you can't even imagine. And remember, this is just another step in your spiritual journey. What comes next is even more amazing. Life is full of challenges, and each one tests our faith. It's easy to be strong when everything is going well, but true strength is revealed in times of adversity. It is in those dark moments when everything seems to be falling apart that God calls us to stand firm in our faith. No matter how big the storm is, faith in God is the anchor that keeps us steady. When money is scarce and solutions seem out of reach, it is faith that sustains us, reminding us that God has a much bigger plan for us. Maintaining faith is not just a choice, it is an act of bravery. Every day, the world presents us with reasons to doubt, to give up, but God asks us to keep believing, even when everything seems lost. It is in those moments of doubt that faith becomes our greatest strength. Like a tree that roots deeper in the storm, our faith strengthens when we cultivate it in the midst of trials. God promises that if we remain firm, victory will come, bringing with it a joy that surpasses any challenge. Faith is not a guarantee of a life without problems, but it is the certainty that we will never face those problems alone. It is the confidence that no matter what happens, God is with us, guiding and protecting us. When we maintain our faith, we open the door to God's blessings, even in the darkest moments. The key is not to give up, to keep believing, even when everything around us says otherwise. It is in those moments that faith becomes a beacon of hope. In times of crisis, it is natural to seek quick solutions, to rely on our own resources, or even to despair when money is not enough. However, God calls us to something greater, to trust in Him above all else. That trust is not always easy, but it is the source of unbreakable strength. While the world crumbles, those who trust in God find a peace that defies all logic. That peace comes from knowing that, although we cannot see the entire path, God does, and His plan is perfect. It's easy to talk about faith when everything is going well, but it is in difficult times that its true power is demonstrated. Faith is not just a feeling, it is a daily decision to trust God, to keep moving forward, even when things don't make sense. Every time you choose faith over fear, you become stronger. That strength allows you to face any challenge with confidence, knowing that God will never leave you nor forsake you. Money can provide a temporary solution, but faith gives you the strength to overcome any situation. God not only asks us to have faith, but also promises to reward it. When you trust in Him, even in the darkest moments, you open the door to unexpected blessings. It is in those moments of deep faith that God shows His power in surprising ways. You may not always see the result immediately, but every act of faith is a seed planted that in due time will bear fruit. That is the beauty of faith. It allows us to see beyond what is visible, trusting in what is invisible. Faith is not static. It is something that grows and develops over time. Every time you face a challenge and choose to trust God, your faith strengthens a little more. It's like a muscle that gets stronger with use. The more you trust in God, the easier it becomes to trust Him in the future. Eventually, that faith becomes second nature, a constant source of strength in every situation. And when you reach that point, you discover that nothing, absolutely nothing, can bring you down. Prayer is more than words spoken in times of need. It is a continuous conversation with God, a direct line to the Creator of the universe. In it, we find not only comfort but also answers, strength, and guidance. No matter how difficult the situation, prayer has the power to transform the impossible into the possible. When money runs out and worries pile up, it is prayer that allows us to release our burdens and trust that God is in control. It is a powerful tool, accessible to all, no matter where you are or what you face. Throughout history, prayer has been the key to opening closed doors and overcoming impossible obstacles. From Moses to David, and from the prophets to the apostles, all discovered the transformative power of prayer. It is not just a religious act. It is an act of faith and trust that God hears and answers. When you kneel and pray, you are declaring your total dependence on Him, acknowledging that without His intervention, you cannot move forward. That humility is what unlocks blessings and divine protection. Prayer does not have to be elaborate or filled with complicated words. God is not impressed by eloquence but by sincerity. Sometimes, the most powerful prayers are the simplest: a cry for help, a whisper of gratitude, or a plea for forgiveness. The important thing is that they are genuine, coming from a heart that truly seeks God. The Bible is full of examples of simple prayers that moved mountains, not because of their form but because of the faith behind them. A life of constant prayer brings with it promises of blessings, protection, and divine intervention in times of need. It is not a guarantee that everything will be easy, but it is an assurance that you will never be alone. God promises to listen and respond to the prayers of His children, especially when they are made with a sincere heart and unshakable faith. When you pray, you are not just speaking, you are entering into a conversation with the Almighty, and in that conversation, anything is possible. Money can solve some problems, but only prayer can bring peace to the soul. When you face difficult decisions, when you feel overwhelmed by uncertainty, prayer is where you find clarity. It is in the stillness of prayer that God reveals His will, where He guides and strengthens you. And best of all, prayer is available to everyone, at any time and place. You don't need an intermediary. You only need a heart willing to connect with God. A life of prayer is a life of constant connection with God. You don't have to wait until you're in a crisis to pray. Prayer should be part of every day, a continuous conversation that strengthens your relationship with the Creator. When you make prayer a priority, you discover that the world's worries begin to fade. You find peace in the midst of chaos, and your faith deepens as you see how God responds in surprising ways. Each prayer is a step closer to His presence, a constant reminder that you are never alone. Prayer also has transformative power in our lives. It changes us from the inside out, aligning our desires and thoughts with God's. As you pray, your perspective changes, and what once seemed important may lose its value in the light of eternity. God uses prayer not only to answer our requests, but also to mold us and make us more like Him. It is in prayer that we learn to trust fully in His plan, even when we don't understand everything that is happening. In the fast-paced world we live in, It's easy to forget the importance of stopping to pray. We are so busy running from one thing to another, trying to solve everything on our own, that we often leave prayer as a last resort. But prayer should not be our plan B. It should be our first option. Before making any decision, before facing any challenge, we must turn to God in prayer, seeking His wisdom and direction. The power of prayer does not reside in us, but in the one to whom we pray. God is almighty, and when we approach Him with humility and faith, there is nothing He cannot do. The Bible is full of stories of how God responded to the prayers of His people in powerful and unexpected ways. From the liberation of the slaves in Egypt to the fall of Jericho, we see how prayer moved the hand of God. And the same can happen in your life today if you only believe and pray with faith. God's love is unconditional, a love that transcends our faults, mistakes, and weaknesses. No matter how many times we have failed or how many times we have strayed from the path, His love remains constant, strong, and present. This love is not based on what we do or what we have. It is a gift, a blessing we receive simply because we are His children. In a world where value is often measured by success, money, or appearances, it is comforting to know that for God, our value is unchangeable and does not depend on any of that. God promises to protect and strengthen us, not because we deserve it, but because His love for us is infinite. This unconditional love is the foundation of our relationship with Him, a love that never fails, even when we fail. There is no mistake so great, no sin so dark, that it can separate us from God's love. That is the true nature of His love. It is inexhaustible, unbreakable, and always available, no matter the circumstances. When you feel unworthy or lost, remember that His love has no conditions or limits. God's love also manifests in His provision. He knows each of our needs, from the most basic to the deepest. And in His love, He promises to supply them all, not just materially, like money or sustenance, but also emotionally and spiritually. It is natural to seek love and acceptance in the world, but the love the world offers is often conditional and fleeting. In contrast, God's love is eternal and not subject to conditions. It's not about what we do or what we achieve, but about who we are in Him. This unconditional love gives us a security that cannot be found anywhere else. It allows us to live without fear, knowing that we are accepted and loved by God just as we are. In a world full of judgments and expectations, God's unconditional love is a balm for the soul. It frees us from the pressure to be perfect, from having to meet impossible standards. Instead, it invites us to rest in His love, to trust that His grace is sufficient for us. When we understand and accept this love, we experience a peace and freedom that cannot be found anywhere else. It is this love that transforms us and gives us the strength to live fully. God's unconditional love also gives us a different perspective on life and the difficulties we face. When we know we are loved so deeply, we can face any challenge with new confidence. No matter what the future holds, we can be sure that God's love will accompany us every step of the way. This love is our rock, our refuge, and our source of hope. It is a love that we cannot earn or lose. It simply exists, always present, always strong. By trusting in God's unconditional love, we learn to let go of our worries and fears. We discover that we do not need to control everything because we are in the hands of a God who loves us and wants the best for us. This love gives us the assurance that no matter what happens, we will never be alone. Even when things don't go as we expected, we can trust that God's love is enough to sustain us and guide us through any storm. God's unconditional love also teaches us to have compassion for others. By experiencing this love, we become more understanding, more patient, and more willing to forgive. We realize that just as God loves us despite our faults, we are also called to love others with the same grace. This love transforms our relationships, making them deeper and more meaningful. It allows us to see others through God's eyes, with a love that has no conditions or limits. When you feel overwhelmed by life, remember that God's love is your anchor. No matter what you face, you can be sure that He is with you, loving you through every trial and every victory. This love is the foundation upon which you can build your life, knowing that no matter what comes, you will always have His unconditional love. There is nothing more comforting than knowing that you are loved just as you are by the God who created the universe. God's unconditional love is the greatest blessing we can receive. It is a love that has no end, that demands nothing in return, and that is always available to us. When you accept this love into your life, everything changes. Uncertainty dissipates, peace settles in, and hope is reborn. And remember, this is just another step in your spiritual journey. What comes next is even more amazing. Hope is the beacon that guides us through the darkest nights, a light that never goes out, even when everything seems lost. God offers us an unshakable hope, a promise that the best is yet to come. No matter how difficult the situation, how many times we have fallen, or how far away the solution seems, there is always hope in God. This hope is not an illusion but a certainty, based on His love and His perfect plan for our lives. It is a reminder that, although the storm is strong, there will always be a dawn. Life is full of ups and downs, and it's easy to lose hope when we face constant difficulties. But God calls us to look beyond our current circumstances and trust in His promise of a better future. He assures us that suffering will not last forever, and that a time of joy and peace is near for those who remain faithful. This hope renews us, gives us the strength to keep going, even when our strength seems to be running out. It is like a river of living water that refreshes our souls, giving us the energy we need to continue the journey. Renewal is not just about an external change, it begins from within. God works in our hearts, transforming our minds, our attitudes, and our perspective. Through His Spirit, He renews us daily, making us more like Him and preparing us for the blessings that are to come. This renewal is not always easy. Sometimes it involves letting go of things that have held us back or facing uncomfortable truths about ourselves. But in the end, this renewal leads us to a fuller, freer life that is more aligned with God's purpose. God promises that for those who wait on Him, suffering will have an end, and a new stage of life will begin. This promise gives us the strength to endure trials with patience, knowing that each challenge brings us closer to victory. No matter how dark the valley is, hope in God assures us that a new day is about to begin, full of possibilities and blessings. This hope is not just for the future, it is also a constant source of renewal in the present, a reminder that God is always working in our favor. It is natural to feel exhausted and discouraged when trials drag on, but it is precisely in those moments that hope becomes more vital. God not only gives us hope for the future, but also renews us in the present, giving us the strength to persevere. When you feel weak or overwhelmed, remember that God is the source of your strength. He will never leave you or forsake you, and His promise of renewal is always within your reach. You just need to turn to Him, trust His plan, and allow His Spirit to renew you day by day. Renewal also means letting go of the old to make way for the new. Sometimes we hold on to things from the past that prevent us from moving forward, but God calls us to let go of those burdens and embrace the new life He offers. This transformation is not just superficial, it is deep and lasting. As we allow God to renew our lives, we begin to see the world in a different way, with eyes full of hope and a heart full of faith. It is a continuous process, but each step brings us closer to the full life that God desires for us. Hope in God is not just a comfort in difficult times, It is a force that drives us to keep moving forward. It reminds us that no matter how difficult the road is, there is always a purpose behind every trial. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to draw closer to God. When we keep our hope in Him, we find the motivation to keep fighting, knowing that each battle won brings us closer to final victory. This hope is a gift, a blessing that allows us to face life with confidence and courage. God also promises us renewal in our relationships, in our finances, and in our health. No matter how broken or damaged these areas are, His power of renewal can fully restore them. It is like a potter who takes a broken vase and rebuilds it, not just restoring it, but making it even more beautiful than before. This promise of renewal is not just for a few, it is for all who trust in God and surrender to His will. When we put our lives in His hands, we can be sure that He will make all things new. Hope and renewal go hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. When you wait on God, you allow His Spirit to renew you, and when you are renewed, your hope is strengthened. This cycle of hope and renewal is what sustains us in the most difficult moments and prepares us for the blessings that are to come. It is a constant reminder that God never stops working in our lives, always working for our good, even when we can't see it. The key is to keep faith, trust His plan, and move forward with courage. Hope is not just an emotion, it is a decision. Deciding to wait on God, even when everything around you seems hopeless, is an act of faith. This faith not only sustains you but also renews you, giving you the strength to keep going. When you choose hope over despair, you allow God to work powerfully in your life. He takes your burdens and gives you His peace, His strength, and His love in return. This renewal is what allows you to keep fighting, knowing that each step brings you closer to God's promise. God never leaves us in the same place. He always takes us from glory to glory, from renewal to renewal. His desire is that we experience a full life, rich in love, joy, and peace. To achieve this, He calls us to renew our minds, to let go of negative thoughts, and to embrace the truth of His Word. This renewal not only affects our relationship with God, but also our relationship with others and with ourselves. As we allow God to transform our minds, we begin to see the world through His eyes, with renewed hope. The promise of renewal also includes a new beginning. No matter how many times we have failed or how many opportunities we have missed, God always offers a new beginning. This is one of the greatest hopes we have as believers, knowing that no matter what we have done, God gives us a new opportunity. Now that you have received this transformative knowledge, it is time to apply it to your life. Don't let the teachings you have heard remain just words. Turn them into concrete actions that impact your day-to-day life. How can you begin? Reflect on the principles that resonated most in your heart and make a firm commitment to implement them starting today. Remember, true change begins with small decisions that, over time, generate great results. What is holding you back from taking the next step toward the abundant life that God has prepared for you? It is time to act with courage, to break the chains of the past, and move forward into a future full of hope, renewal, and blessings. Don't wait for things to happen. Take control of your destiny and allow God to guide you in every decision. The transformation you long for is just one step away. Before we finish, I want to challenge you not to keep this knowledge to yourself. Share what you have learned with those who also need a word of hope and encouragement. Make this message a light that illuminates the lives of others, and you will see how blessings flow abundantly in your life. Finally, I invite you to subscribe to our channel and activate notifications so that you don't miss any content. Together, we will continue to explore the deep truths that God has for us and move toward a life full of purpose and fulfillment.